Welcome, Crossover Report, three guys, one mic. As we get set for the beautiful week of March Madness, it begins tonight with the first two play-in games, and then all week long, full coverage of all the games, Thursday, Friday, first round, and then Saturday, Sunday, the second round. So a lot of basketball on our hands this week. It's a basketball fan's paradise, to say the least. As always, Paul Lamb, Nick Damiani, myself, Neil Doyle. So in this video, we're going to give our beautiful expertise on how to fill out your bracket, some of our predictions for this year's tournament. Going to go through each region, kind of talk a little bit about each region, and then get into who we have in our Final Fours and eventually who we each think will win this year's national championship. So let's jump right into it. Let's start in the southern bracket, the south side of the tournament. Kansas, the number one seed in that bracket, Villanova the number two. So a lot of good teams in this bracket. I think there could be some upsets in the first round. Let's start off with Nick. Nick, do you have any higher seeds upsetting some teams in the first round on the south side of the bracket?
I do. I want to look towards the playing game, which is Vandy versus Wichita State. I think Wichita State's going to win that one, and then it's Wichita versus Arizona. And Wichita's going to come into that game with Ron Baker and Fred VanVleet, two guys who've been in this tournament before, who've been a part of a team that's made a run in the tournament before. And I don't think Arizona's a prototypical Arizona team again this year. I think they're younger, and they've been really inconsistent all year, and I don't know if they're going to be able to handle a veteran team who can handle runs that happen in the tournament, because every team has runs, and it's all about how you handle those. And I know that Fred VanVleet as a point guard is so important in March Madness to have a guy who can control the tempo of a game. So I like Wichita State there, and I'm actually pretty confident in that one.
Any other ones, or is that your only?
Let's see. No, that's it. I think Iowa Temple could be a good one. That's a 10-7. I like Iowa. I think they've lost it a little down the stretch, but they showed enough in the regular season. I think they could get by Temple. I wasn't too impressed with Temple this year. They were in the American tournament. They didn't play very well. So
Nick supporting his Missouri Valley Conference foes, Wichita State to upset Arizona.
Always.
I like that pick. Paul, do you have any upsets in that first round on the south side of the bracket?
I've actually got Arizona going through against Wichita State, but Nick made some good points about their backcourt. If Wichita State wins tonight, I'm going to have to relook at that, but I'll tell you this, Wichita State and my St. Louis Billikens were close. They were over half a play, so you got to rethink that. And then I actually got Temple beating Iowa. Temple hasn't really beat anybody this year, but Iowa has been terrible this past couple of weeks. They were like 3 in the country at one point, I think maybe as high as 2, and they have just completely fallen off the wagon. I think Temple goes by them. I think this just caps off Iowa's disappointing end of the year. That's the only one I got is Temple.
see, now Iowa did lose to a tough Illinois team who was really hot come Big Ten tournament time.
Okay.
So I'll give them that break.
Give yourself the plug there, U of I. All right. I don't have really any upsets in this first round of the South. And really not even an upset, that 9-8 game, I'm going with UConn. They're playing hot right now. I think all the higher teams in that side are going to win. You said the Iowa Temple game. I think Iowa is just their ability to score the basketball. Obviously struggled in this second half and didn't do as hot as they wanted to in the conference tournament, but they just have too many pieces. I don't think Temple's seen a team like Iowa. And then, as you guys mentioned, that Arizona game, I think that could go either way. I don't know. I don't think if it's neither team really. Vanderbilt's just had their chances all year, and they're getting another chance by getting put in this tournament. But I don't think either team are going to be able to put up with the size of Arizona and how fast Arizona plays. So the only one I have is really not even an upset, but UConn beating Colorado. So not too many for me on the first side, on the south side of the bracket. So let's then jump into staying on that south side of the bracket. Who do you guys have playing in the Elite Eight on the south side of the bracket in the South Regional Championship game? Nick, let's start with you. Who do you have in that game?
I got Kansas and Miami so far. I think Kansas earned their number 1 seed, and I think they earned their number 1 overall by finishing off arguably the best conference in basketball this year, which was the Big 12. And Miami's been playing good too, and I'm not a big Villanova guy. I didn't think the Big East was very strong this year, so I think Miami gets through that. They will play Wichita State in the second half, but the ACC has been good this year. Not as good as I think they've been in the past, but they played North Carolina tough this year. I think they beat them once. and they lost the other one. But really, I don't see anybody. I'm not a Villanova guy, I guess. I'm always one of the guys that picks them losing the first round, kind of, or second round. Like this year, I literally thought about it with Iowa, but I don't have enough faith in Iowa to win their first game to take them out in the second game. So I get them through to Miami, and I think Miami just bests them there. So then I got Kansas and Miami, of course.
Paulie?
I've got Maryland and Villanova, which I'm not very confident in, and there's a great chance it's not going to be it. I think with Kansas, yes, they're good. Yes, they finished the season number 1. I don't think they're that good. I don't think Perry Ellis is anything to write home about. And Maryland has not been great this year. They put it away, Nick. Maryland has not been great this year, not nearly as good as they should be, but they've still got a starting 5 that has like 3 or 4 first-round picks on it. It's maybe 5 NBA draft picks on it. So they have the talent. It's just, can they put that into play in March? And then Villanova, I think Nick is just sleeping on Villanova. I think they've got the guard play to go through March. I think they're better than these Villanova teams we've seen in the past that have gone, like last year they're 30-1, but they couldn't do anything in the tournament. I think they're better this year. I think the Big East was better this year than it was last year. Not as good as some of the other major conferences, but I think Villanova has what it takes. I don't think their road is necessarily that tough. I think Miami or Arizona, I think they handle either one of them. I don't think they really get tested until the Elite Eight.
We've been saying that about Villanova every year. Everybody always says that. I feel like they've gotten better this year. This is the year they make a run.
They're better this year.
Everybody said that the last 5 years they're better this year. They're better this year. They're better this year. And they every year, second round. That's it.
Well, I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. Villanova. Paul's a smart man. I have the same Elite Eight. I have Maryland and Villanova. I think Maryland, like we've said, have towards the second half of the year not been playing as strong as they started. A lot of people, they were the number 2 team in the preseason. They've got the talent. Trimble's having a bit of a sophomore year slump towards the end of the year. They, had a chance to beat Michigan State, and they could have been in that Big Ten championship game. I just think they have so much talent. I think if Trimble's able to get it going a little bit, and they just, they're a team that likes to play on the perimeter. If they could get Diamond Stone the ball inside a little bit, I think he matches up with anybody on that Kansas front line. And I think they have enough guard play. I think they could upset Kansas. And I'm a believer in Villanova. I think a lot of people give the Big East a lot of crap this year. I think the Big East, had some good teams in it this year. The competition's not as high, throughout the league, top to bottom, like some of the top conferences. But, Big East has, 5-6 teams in the tournament still. So, and I think the guard play, like we said, Villanova is just strong. Nick thinks we've been saying every year they're better. I think this is the best team they've had in the past 3-4 years. Brunson didn't play well in that Big East championship game. Villanova could have been a 1 seed if they probably beat Seton Hall, but they got the 2. I think it's going to be Maryland and Villanova. So Paul and I are the smart ones. We got that right on the south side of the bracket. So then let's jump.
We'll see.
Who do you have? Who do you guys have in the Final Four coming out of the south side of the bracket? Paul, let's start with you.
In the Final Four, let me see. I got a half and half, so I can't see the Final Four. I'm pretty sure I got Villanova coming out of there too, because I don't think Kansas gets past Maryland in the Elite Eight. I mean, Nick's talking about Kansas or Villanova being so bad, but Kansas lost in the second round the last 2 years too. I don't think they have what it takes this year either.
I think Kansas is better this year.
I just don't know how you can say that, but it's okay. It doesn't matter. I think Villanova does not have a very tough time with Maryland. I don't think the South is really that hard of a bracket. I think once Villanova can get past Arizona or Miami, I don't think they're going to have a problem with anybody from the top half.
Nick?
Yeah, I'm going to go with my Kansas guys. I like Selden and Ellis. It's a year of the seniors this year, and you like those old guys in there. So I like them to get over Miami because Miami really hasn't made a run in quite some time, I think, since Shane Larkin was there. And I want to talk about another thing. Let's talk about UConn in that bracket. If UConn was in any other – if they would have had any other spot on any bracket, I think I would have picked them to go for a nice run. But for them to get Kansas in the next round, that's just really tough because I like them a lot. I like Purvis. I like Daniel Hamilton. I actually don't like who's the freshman with that shot. He's not as good as a lot of people say he is. He just hit a good shot. But, it's UConn. It's UConn in March. So any other bracket, any other place, I think I could have had them having a nice upset. But
I thought about UConn a lot too over Kansas.
Well, and just with how well they were playing in the American, in the conference tournament in the American. So, it's not a surprise when UConn plays well in their conference tournaments. It seems to translate over to March Madness. But yeah, like you said, getting Kansas in that second round is tough. For me, I'm going Maryland in the Final Four. I'm a Maryland believer. I think they just have so much talent on that team. Yes, it's been not as good of a second half that they've wanted. But I think they played okay in that Big Ten tournament. They should have beat Michigan State in that game. It's going to come down to Melo Trimble. Can he get it going come tournament time? It's been a bit of an up and down year for him, but he's a guy that you can give the ball at the end of the game. He didn't do it against Michigan State, but he's a guy that can create a shot at the end of the game and give you a chance to win. And just with all those other pieces, and if they play inside a little bit more, if you go into the freshman Diamond Stone. They love to play on the perimeter. They've got that other big man in Carter who can, stretch the floor a little bit. But if they can just pound it in just a little bit, it's going to open up their perimeter shot. And, I think they can make it through this bracket to the Final Four. So I have Maryland in the Final Four out of the South region. So moving on, let's go to the West region. Paulie, any upsets in the West region that you have in the first round?
Nothing major. I've got VCU over Oregon State because it's still VCU. It's still a lot of Shaka Smart recruits at VCU. They've been good in March recently. They had a pretty good season too. Another team my Bills hung with for half of a half, but no big deal. Outside of that, I'd watch Duke just because this Duke team we've been talking about it all year is extremely overrated. Want to talk about a team that shouldn't have had a 4 seed, probably Duke, but I think they should beat UNC Wilmington, but they're a team to watch.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Paul with the VCU pick. I'm still stuck on the Shaka Smart era with VCU, so he gets a couple more years of me picking up in the first round. VCU is just a good tournament team. It seems like their pressure defense every March gets the best of teams in the first round. So I'm going to go with them. And otherwise, like Paul said, Duke, I think I saw a stat the other day that when they're not the number 1 seed, they've lost in the first round the last 2 times. So that's an interesting little fun fact for you.
Nick, where's Shaka Smart coaching?
Texas.
Okay. Well, I thought you said the Shaka Smart era. He's not there. I thought you thought he was still there.
No, I'm saying even though he's gone, he still makes me want to pick them.
No, yeah, I agree. I'm going VCU too over Oregon State. Those 7-10 games are always, you never know. But I'm going them. I think, they could honestly make a run, but getting Oklahoma in that second round, there's no chance. But I like VCU in that first round game. And then I'm going to go Northern Iowa over Texas, over Shaka and his Texas Longhorns. Northern Iowa, Wes Washman, a guy to watch out for, won them the tournament in the Missouri Valley over Evansville. They upset Wichita State. And honestly, I think that upset over Wichita State might have made, why Wichita State's playing in that play-in game, to be honest. Wichita State might have got a seed higher, not had to play in the play-in game if they didn't lose to Northern Iowa. But Northern Iowa gets in. They're nothing flashy past Washman, but I think they could upset Texas in that first round, and then not really an upset. But I'm going the 9 seed Cincinnati over St. Joe's as the 8 seed. But so my only big one in that west side, Northern Iowa over Texas. That's my upset on that side. So then, Paulie, let's jump to you. Who do you have playing in the Elite Eight in the West region?
I got Oregon, Baylor, Texas, and Oklahoma. I think Oregon has a relatively easy road. Oh, no, wait. Are we talking Elite 8 or Sweet 16?
Go to the Elite 8. We heard your Sweet 16. I like your Sweet 16 picks. I got
Oregon, Oklahoma. Oregon, I think they have a relatively easy road going through St. Joe's or Cincy. And then Baylor and Duke are 2 teams that maybe haven't been as good as they should this year. And then Oklahoma, I think, is going to have a tough time. They got to play VCU probably in the second round. And then either Texas or Texas A&M. Those are 2 teams that have big wins. I think Texas is a team both of you are probably underestimating. You look at some of their wins this year. They beat West Virginia twice. They beat North Carolina. They beat Iowa State. They've got a lot of good quality wins. But I think Oklahoma still gets by them. I'm a huge Buddy Hield fan. Just the way he can score, he's probably the best scorer in the country. I like Oklahoma and Oregon.
Nick?
Yeah, I got Oklahoma and actually Baylor. Oklahoma, for obvious reasons, I think Oklahoma's good enough to be a 1 seed, and I think they have they're not going to face that tough of a task. Paul said he likes Texas. I thought Texas played absolutely awful in the Big 12 tournament. So that's the only reason I'm going against them, because otherwise I love my guy Shaka. But then on the Baylor side, I'm actually thinking Oregon's probably the weakest one seed in this entire tournament. And I think Baylor could definitely get by a team like Duke, who's been inconsistent all year, because Baylor definitely played a tough Big 12 tournament. They lost to Kansas by only 4 points in that game. They were in it the entire way. So I got Baylor, Oklahoma.
I'm going Baylor, Oklahoma also.
Oh, man.
Oregon is the 1 seed. I don't know. I'm not bought in on them. I honestly might have watched one Oregon game all year. I mean, nobody really knows, I feel like, a whole lot about this Ducks team. They've got some good guard play. They shoot the ball okay. They've got a big guy who can stretch the floor, and Chris Boeser, I think you say his last name. He was an NAIA player, and he is now playing in big minutes for a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. So kind of a fun story there. He can stretch the floor for him. He's been big for him, and he's really been the difference maker for them all year in the Pac-12. I don't know, though. I just don't know if they're ready for it. Getting the 1 seed, a lot of expectations. They don't have too tough of a road, but I think that Baylor team is playing pretty strong. They almost beat Kansas in the Big 12 and probably should have beat them, but I think it could be Baylor, Oklahoma, and all Big 12, Elite 8 in the West region. So Nick and I agreeing on that one. And then let's go, Nick. Who do you have playing in the Final Four from the West?
I got Oklahoma. I just think they got just so much offense. Buddy Hield, and then when he kicks it out to his other guys, they're just shooters all over the place for them. Spangler does a nice job on the boards. He does the dirty work, so he's going to get these guys second chances to shoot if they're not hitting their first shot. But for the majority of the season, most of them were shooting about 50% from 3. So I just think they're too much on the offensive end. I mean, they were a 0.2 seconds away from playing Kansas in the Big 12 championship game too. So I just think Oklahoma's too much. But I do think Baylor gets there. But I'm going Oklahoma.
Yeah, I'm agree with Nick on that in Oklahoma. I think that backcourt, there was a point this season, about midway through the season, they were all shooting above 50% from 3. I mean, that's unheard of. That's Golden State numbers. I think Buddy Hield is really going to show off why he's the best player in the country. Yeah, I got Oklahoma easily.
I got 3 for 3 here. I got Oklahoma in the Final Four out of that bracket. I think they drew a pretty simple side of the bracket. I think they're going to play Baylor in that Elite 8 game. Baylor's not going to go down against them. They've seen them twice already in their own conference. So Oklahoma, though, it's just going to be too much, I think, offensively. As you said, shooting, I think I looked it up, they're shooting like 43% as a team from 3, which is, ridiculous. You've got, most likely player of the year candidate in Buddy Hield, who's averaging like 25 points a game. I think there's just too much offense, and a lot of people don't give them credit. They are a pretty good defensive team. They don't show it at times, but Lon Kruger's gotten this team to the tournament 4 straight years. He's been to the Sweet 16. I think it's 4 different times with 4 different teams. So Kruger knows how to get teams through the NCAA tournament. This probably is his most talented team he's ever taken to an NCAA tournament. So that's why I have Oklahoma in the Final Four. I think that's probably a pretty consensus pick for most people in their bracket. So all of us with the Sooners out of the West region to the Final Four. Move to our next side of the bracket in the East. I'll start it off. I don't really have any upsets other than that 11 versus 6 game. I have Michigan winning the play-in game over Tulsa, and then I had them upsetting Notre Dame. As we said, Michigan got into the field probably just because of their play in the Big Ten tournament. Won a few games, but I think they could do it come March Madness, but then I think they'll lose in that second round. They'll have to play 2. It happened in the Big Ten tournament. They played 2 games. They upset Indiana in that second round and then just fell out against Purdue. But I think they'll upset Notre Dame in that first round. Other than that, that's my only upset. And then I have Providence as the 9th seed beating USC. But Michigan's my big upset in the first round in the East region. Nick, you got any upsets in that region?
Yeah, I got a pretty huge one. I got Xavier going down the first round to Weber State. This again goes with my hate for the Big East this year. I don't think they're strong at all. I thought they disappointed in the Big East tournament. That's disappointing you couldn't finish it. But then Weber State, they've been in this tournament before. I don't know if you guys know Damian Lillard. Played for them too. Good guy. But they got another guard this year named Jeremy Senglin. Shoots 44% from 3. Always dangerous when a guard can shoot the ball this year in March. And then they also got a forward who's averaging a double-double this season. So I mean, that's a team that could definitely put a scare into Xavier. I'm just saying, I give you 2 guys. You only need 1 guy to make an upset in the first round.
So I got a couple things. First off, you got to wonder who they're playing against.
Xavier.
Who they're playing against.
Oh, they're playing
double.
the Sun Belt, bro.
No. Oh wow, tough Sun Belt. Second off, Damian Lillard's not playing there, so that I don't know what that added. I don't know what that added.
You might send him a text message before the game. Good luck. Go out there and try to win it. But what is Lillard?
When you guys are sitting there Thursday and Xavier loses, don't be mad.
You got us, but that's a far stretch. I don't know. Xavier had a pretty good year. I don't know if they're
March
losing.
Madness, man.
I agree.
March Madness, bro.
I agree. I like the pick.
You can't be afraid to pick the upsets. I mean, if we played it safe,
I like the pick.
Can't do it.
Any other ones in that first round, Nick, or no? Is that just your big one?
That was my only one, but if I had to pick another one, I would look at Indiana and Chattanooga, just because that's a really big loss Indiana had, and I don't know where their spirits are at. And Chattanooga beat Illinois earlier this year, so I mean, Illinois wasn't great, but I'm
not saying much. Not saying much. But
yeah. Illinois did beat Purdue earlier this year too.
Fine, so. They did. Where's Illinois now, though? That's all I'm gonna say. Paulie, let's move.
We passed on the CBI.
First round, Paulie. Any upsets in the region?
No, I've got pretty much completely chalk, except for Providence in the first round. I just think a lot of those teams you might pick to make a run, like Stony Brook, they've got Kentucky in the first round. SF Austin, their team, I think they won a game last year. They got West Virginia in the first round. I think there's just not a lot of room here for an upset.
Besides Weber State.
Besides Weber State. I don't think that's it, but Weber State.
Right. Is it Weber?
It's not Weber, it's an E.
I said Weber.
Yeah, Weber.
You keep saying Weber.
I said Weber.
Or is it Weber? I've heard it's Weber State also.
Weber.
I don't know. That's a ballsy
I think
pick.
that's a different school.
Nick, all right, who do you have in the Elite Eight out of the East region?
Gotta have balls. I'm going to go with my boys in North Carolina. Oh, North Carolina, my bad. North Carolina and West Virginia. West Virginia, I thought that was a huge win over Oklahoma. That was the second time I saw them play this year. They impressed me both times. Both times it was against Oklahoma, who I'm really big on this year. I think their defense is really good, like Shaka Smart type defense. When he was at VCU, how fast they are and everything, but with more talented players this time. But then I got North Carolina in there too, because I thought North Carolina might be the most complete team in the entire NCAA. Marcus Page, Joel Berry, Justin Jackson, Bryce Johnson, who's probably the most underrated player in college basketball this year. He's just flying under the radar, averaging a double-double and dominating almost everybody he plays against. And then they bring guys off the bench like Hicks and Kennedy Meeks. They're so deep everywhere. They're such a good all-around team. I see them giving a lot of teams problems.
Paulie, who do you have in your Elite Eight in the East?
Yeah, hate to say it, but I agree with Nick on this one. North Carolina and West Virginia. West Virginia, they beat Baylor twice this year. They beat Iowa State twice this year. They beat Oklahoma. They beat Kansas. I mean, they have quality wins across the board. And like Nick said, that defense, when they have that full court press clicking, there's nothing you can do. You're gonna turn the ball over. Watch, Oklahoma had like 12 turnovers in the first half against them. And then North Carolina, I think they are the best team in the country. We maybe haven't seen their best basketball yet, which is scary. They have a tough road, playing Providence in the second round possibly, and then like we said, having to play Kentucky after that. I don't think they'll have a problem with Kentucky. It just depends which Kentucky team shows up that day. But yeah, I got North Carolina and West Virginia.
3 for 3. I have the same thing. West Virginia played really well. Lost by 10 to Kansas in the Big 12 championship tournament. But West Virginia's playing some good basketball. That full court press is ridiculous. They have a guy in Devin Williams who just crashes the crap out of the offensive boards. They're the top offensive rebounding team in the country. They're going to cause a lot of teams problems with that full court press. And Devin Williams had a huge championship game. I think he had like 30-something points in a loss to Kansas, but I think he's going to dominate in this tournament. And then North Carolina, and I agree with Paul. I still think we haven't seen their best basketball. It's been up and down throughout the year. It's all about Marcus Page. If he's able to play somewhat decent, this team plays well. But they've got a tough stretch. Providence, most likely going to go up against Providence in that second round. Chris Dunn, one of the better guards in the country, going to go up against Marcus Page. I think North Carolina's just got so much depth, though. And then, like you said, they could play another team in Indiana or Kentucky who has strong guard play. So Marcus Page still has to play well for this North Carolina team, but like Nick also mentioned, just so many pieces on this team. Then you got a guy like Bryce Johnson who can do it for you. But I have North Carolina, West Virginia also coming out of the East. And then, Paulie, who do you have in the Final Four out of the East region?
I'm taking North Carolina for everything we've been saying. Just too much talent, too strong. They're going to be too much for West Virginia.
Paul? Or no, sorry, Nick.
Yeah, I'm going to go North Carolina too. Like you were saying, like Marcus Page has to play big. Marcus Page has been struggling this entire tournament, but I think you really see the depth around North Carolina, how they just won the ACC, even with who was their best player coming into this season not playing well. Bryce Johnson's probably taken over that part of it. He's their best player now. So right now you don't need old Marcus Page. You just need a shell of Marcus Page, former self, I think, to win this tournament.
Yeah, North Carolina for me as well. I still think though, I'm a big believer, and I think Nick is too. We always talk. Guard play is huge in this tournament, but just with all the pieces that the Tar Heels have, they've got another guy, a sophomore, in Joel Berry, who has been giving them really great minutes. When Marcus Page throughout his whole senior year hasn't played to the level that he really wants to. I just think there's a lot of pieces, but I wouldn't be surprised that if a team like Kentucky possibly in the Sweet 16, even a team like Providence, North Carolina is way too big, I think, for a Providence team. But, Page has to play somewhat well, because then if Barry doesn't play well, their guard play, there's not a whole lot after that. But like you said, a guy like Bryce Johnson can pick you up in this tournament. But I think Page will play somewhat decent and get North Carolina to the Final Four. So we all three have agreed on the last two Final Four picks in the Tar Heels and Oklahoma. So moving to our last region in the Midwest, Paulie, any upsets in that first round in the Midwest region?
Yeah, I've got Gonzaga, the 11th seed, over Seton Hall. I think everybody's high in Seton Hall because they have that nice end of the year. Gonzaga's a good team. I think Kyle Wiltshire is somebody who's in Player of the Year talk preseason. He's obviously fallen out of that, but he's still very skilled. He's still good. This Gonzaga team is not that far removed from another good season last year. I like the Zags over Seton Hall in the first round. Besides that, nothing else.
Nick?
Yeah, I'm gonna look at the 12-5 game there. We'll go Arkansas Little Rock over the Boiler Boys over in Indiana. And, at first I might have looked at this pick just with a little bias in me, but then I actually got down to looking at some stuff, and I think there's a chance here. Purdue, honestly, they did impress me in the Big Ten tournament. They got the best big men in the country. A.J. Hammons is phenomenal. I'll give you guys that, but that's about it. I don't like their guards. Raphael Davis, not good at all. Has been struggling shooting the ball lately, and we were talking about guard play in March. But also, on Arkansas' side of this, they like to play a slow pace, and they're the second best defensive team in the country by points per game. Granted, who are they playing? Who knows? But still, not a lot. So they'd like to play a slow pace, and I think when you look at it, a team with big men will like to play a slow pace too, but that also keeps the game nice and close. And in March, if you're that underseed, you want the game close because anything can happen late in the game. So I'm going there. Got to have an upset.
I have Syracuse as the 10 seed beating Dayton. I'm surprised Syracuse got that 10 seed, as we said in the last video when we talked about the NCAA tournament seeding. But they've struggled. They've lost 4 of their last 5 games. But I think Syracuse can get it done over Dayton. They figure it out in the first round. And going back to what Nick said, I don't know. That's a stretch with the Purdue one, but it is true. I mean, I think it'll be first to 60. First to 60 could win that game. It's going to be a slow-paced game. But I'd be shocked if Purdue lost that first game to Arkansas Little Rock. That'd be heartbreaking, to be honest. Can't lose that first one. But that's my only one. I only have Syracuse beating Dayton. That's my only upset. So moving on the Midwest side, let's go to the Elite Eight. I'll start this one off. I have Virginia going up against Michigan State, the 1 versus 2. I think these are two of the probably best teams on that side or in this region. I wanted to put Purdue over Virginia, but I think Virginia is so good defensively. They struggled in that ACC championship game against North Carolina. Malcolm Brogdon really just was hitting the side of the backboard, couldn't score. If he has a good tournament and is able to put up 15 points or more a game, this team is so good defensively that they're not going to have to score that much. They're going to shut teams down as long as he plays somewhat well. Him or the other guard, Parentes, if he's able to score 15 or so a game, this team's going to march all the way to the Elite Eight up against a Michigan State team that's playing some great basketball right now. Denzel Valentine, a Player of the Year candidate. you can't ever count out Tom Izzo in March. So, you got to almost put Michigan State to the Elite Eight coming out of the Midwest. So I have in the Elite Eight Virginia versus Michigan State. Paulie, who do you have?
I also have Michigan State, but on the top half of that, I got Iowa State. You want to talk about a team that disappoints me every year? It's Iowa State. I always pick them to go through, and they always lose in the second round. But I like them this year because I like George Niang. I think he's a guy that's not in the Player of the Year conversation that should at least be in it. I'm not saying he should win it, but you watch him play. He's averaging 20 points per game. You watch him play. He has a larger arsenal of offensive moves than anybody in the country, even more than Buddy Hield. He can go back to the basket. He can take you off the dribble. He can shoot a three. He's unbelievable, and I really want to see him versus Denzel Valentine. That's really a matchup of the future of basketball. These guys who are Draymond Green types who can play center but who can also bring the ball up the court for you, who can shoot from the outside but have back to the basket play. I like Iowa State in that half against Michigan State.
I'm agree with Doyle. Go Virginia and Michigan State. Like he was talking about Virginia defensively, they're just so solid. And they're just one of those solid all-around teams that just isn't going to lose to a lower team like a Texas Tech or a Butler in the second round. And with Iowa State, I would love to put them through too, but like Paul said in the past, they haven't shown up in March, so it scares me too much to put them through Virginia if they lose.
I thought you were ballsy. I thought that was your big thing.
You can only be so ballsy. You can't be ballsy on everybody. You got to have some type of – because, I mean, Iowa State could lose to Iona. Iowa State isn't a great defensive team, and Iona can score the basketball. So they could honestly lose to Iona in the first round or Arkansas Little Rock in the second round. You just don't know because Arkansas Little Rock's got the clan. But I will say one thing.
Before we move on to the final – well, go ahead. I'm sorry. I cut you off. Sorry. I thought you said your teams. Go ahead.
All right, anyways. But anyway, let's say Purdue does somehow beat Arkansas Little Rock. That'd be a good matchup. Niang and Hammonds, I think, would be a good one. But that's not going to happen. And then with Michigan State, I really didn't like Michigan State a lot as much as a lot of other people did. But like we talked about in our last show with the seeding, I think Michigan State is in one of the weakest half of a bracket I've ever seen. Like the toughest team they'll face off with is either going to be Utah or Seton Hall to get to the Elite Eight. So I think they'll pretty much waltz through that. But I don't like a contender necessarily having only one player to help them win the game in Denzel Valentine. Because if you watch the Big Ten tournament, it was Denzel Valentine all over the place. And that was it.
Before we move on, quick, I believe we have a fan watching the show, good friend of mine and ours, Ryan Brown, watching his upset in the Midwest. He has Fresno State beating Utah. I got an update.
State.
He's got Fresno State over Utah. So one of our good friends, Ryan Brown, giving his opinion in the Midwest, thinks Fresno State could upset a Utah team. I like the Utes.
I think that, yeah. I don't like the Utes.
I like Podol. Podol's good. If you don't know about Podol.
True. I think Fresno State played Oregon pretty tough earlier this year. Oregon's 1 seed. There you go.
All right, and then moving in the Midwest, let's go to who we have coming out of the Midwest to the Final Four. Paulie, who do you have coming out of the Midwest?
I've got Michigan State, just because we talk about Tom Izzo a lot. An interesting thing about Tom Izzo is we always talk about him getting the Final Fours in the tournament. He does not win a lot of championships, though. I think he's only got like one championship. Correct me if I'm wrong. So I've got them going through to the Final Four, but I don't know about past that. Denzel Valentine's a big-time player. That's it. That's all I got.
Nick?
Yeah, I'm agree with Paul. I'm really not confident in this side of the bracket a lot. I don't, because I could honestly see, let's say Denzel Valentine has a bad game. I haven't seen anybody on their team step up. Forbes wasn't necessarily shooting them all great.
Yeah.
Their big man Costello is not really anything offensively or anything like that. But like he said, he is a big-time player, and March is a time where big-time players tend to show up. So I'm going to go with Michigan State.
But who knows? It could be Arkansas Little Rock, right, Nick?
You never know.
One bad game from Denzel Valentine. Who knows?
Now, here's the thing, though, with that. They match up good with Purdue. They might not match up good with everybody else. I'm going to leave it at that.
Interesting. 3 for 3 again here. I have Michigan State in the Final Four. I think they're playing great basketball at the right time, just like we saw them last year. They might not have as many options other than Denzel Valentine. I think a guy like Bryn Forbes, who didn't shoot the ball great in the Big Ten tournament, he can get hot quick if he's able to put a few threes in for him. And then another guy, a freshman, Deontay Davis, didn't really do a whole lot for him throughout the year, but if he's able to give him some productive minutes, maybe score a few points down in the post, I think Michigan State matches up well with the Virginia team, and they'll make it to the Final Four for the second straight year. So all of us agree on the Michigan State. I think all three of us agreed on the Final Four on the East, Midwest, and West side of the bracket. A little bit of difference on the South side. So let's start off, Nick. Who do you have on that left side on the Final Four in the South and West? Who you have Oklahoma and who in that game?
Kansas.
Kansas. Who do you have moving from that into the championship game?
We'll go Oklahoma. I think they get over the hump with Kansas. They played them. This will be probably the third time this year, I believe. I think they've seen enough of each other. And I think having that one big-time player was going to put Oklahoma over the hump. Kansas has a lot of guys that are good, but they don't have that big-time player like Oklahoma does in Buddy Hield. So I'm going to go Oklahoma.
Paulie, then who do you have on the? You have Oklahoma and who in the Final Four on that left side?
Oklahoma and Villanova.
Who do you have going to the championship?
Yep, hate to agree with Nick again, but Oklahoma, I think Buddy Hield is going to have a tournament to remember, a historical tournament. We could see him 30 points per game, something crazy, but really their shooting is going to be big for them. Spangler down low is one of those role players you need in March. I like Oklahoma.
Yeah, I have Maryland, Oklahoma in the Final Four on that side. I also, all three of us agree again. I have Oklahoma. I think, with their ability to score the basketball, yes, they've struggled a little bit in the past few weeks. I think they don't get as much credit for their defense that they deserve. I think they're a pretty good defensive team, and I think they'll be too much for Maryland in the Final Four. And Buddy Hield has another great tournament, so I have Oklahoma in the championship game on that left side of the bracket. So then let's move to the right side, and on the East and Midwest side, each of us have North Carolina, Michigan State. So Paulie, who do you have going to the championship game between those two teams?
North Carolina, like I said about Michigan State, they don't know how to close the deal at the end of March. And North Carolina is such a complete team. If you have everybody, Marcus Page, Bryce Johnson, Joel Berry, all of them on the same page, I think North Carolina makes it through.
Nick?
Yeah, I'm agree with Paul right there. I think this is where you see the one player that Michigan State has kind of come back to haunt them because North Carolina's got so many weapons. You can only rely on one guy for so long, I feel like. And I like North Carolina. I think they're the best team in the country. They're so deep all around.
I'm disagreeing. I'm going Michigan State in the championship game. I think defensively they're playing some of the best basketball right now on the defensive side of the ball. And I think Valentine's going to do what he does. I think a guy like Bryn Forbes can get hot in this tournament and start lighting it up from outside. They match up well enough. Their big men are nothing special for Michigan State, but they do their job defensively. They're going to be fine against, I think, a North Carolina team. And I think Izzo gets, like we've said, hasn't gotten to many championship games. He's been to the Final Four so many times. I think they get into the championship game this year. So then let's go to it. Then, Nick, you have Kansas and who? North Carolina in the championship game?
No, Oklahoma and North Carolina.
Sorry. We all have Oklahoma. So you guys both have Oklahoma and North Carolina. So, Nick, who do you have winning the national championship between those two?
I got North Carolina. Like I said, I think they're just too deep. I think they're the best team in the country. I think
What's your tiebreaker? Final score?
62-59. I think Buddy Hield misses a three at the end to send it to OT.
I like it. Paulie, you have the same championship. What do you have?
62-6. I'm not going to go into it. I got North Carolina.
Low scoring.
You said 62-69. Buddy Hield misses a three.
I said 62-59.
59. He had the 59.
Okay. All right, that's all right. We're all right. I got. Unfortunately, I also have North Carolina winning. This one was tough for me. I think if North Carolina plays as a team, they're better than Oklahoma. I think they have the coaching advantage too with Roy Williams. But if it comes down to star versus star, if it's Bryce Johnson has to have a big game or Buddy Hield has to have a big game, whoever has the bigger game wins. I like Oklahoma, but that's probably not going to happen. So I got North Carolina 76-70.
I have Oklahoma, Michigan State in the championship. I'm going the Sooners. I think they're a complete team that's going to offensively just dominate in this tournament. They don't get a lot of credit for their defense, but they're going to play well enough. Lon Kruger has taken so many teams deep in this tournament. He gets over the hump finally this year, gets a team to the title game, and Buddy Hield going to win Player of the Year, going to win a national championship. Just a storied season for the Oklahoma Sooners. I have them winning 75-68 over the Spartans. So we're pretty close on a lot of our picks. Each of us had three of the Final Four teams. the same, but then just on that south side of the bracket a little bit different. But I mean, you never know. It seemed like this year with all the disparity and all the teams, nobody really dominating, that this could be the year that just a boatload of upsets happen. Or it could just be the year that we get, mostly one or, two seeds in the Final Four, and that's every year. But this year, it just you don't really know. You can't get a feel on it, I feel like, this year, which is going to make it so fun. As we said, it starts tonight, are the first two playing games. Tomorrow, the next two, and then Thursday and Friday are all the, bunch of first-round games, and then Saturday, Sunday are the second round. So a lot of basketball to be watching if you're a basketball fan. It's a great time of the year. We'll have all the coverage for you on our Twitter, where you can follow us at Crossover Report. You can like us on Facebook, subscribe to us right here on YouTube, and you can always visit us at crossoverreport.com. Any final thoughts? It's the best time of the year in my mind. You get to sit there and you get to just flip between the 4 different channels and watch basketball. You can enjoy your beverage of choice. And
you don't got to go to class.
Great week of basketball.
Do whatever you want.
Any final thoughts before we head out?
I'm excited. Join our bracket challenge.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I forgot to mention that again. Bracket challenge. We're having a Crossover Report challenge on ESPN. That's the name of the group, Crossover Report Challenge. Fill out a bracket for free, and you have a chance to win a $15 Visa gift card. So no reason not to join. Before you join it, though, make sure you go either follow us on Twitter or you can like us on Facebook and then fill out your bracket. It takes 5 minutes. I mean, I'm sure you've already got 4 brackets on ESPN.
Free.
Enter one more for free, and you have a chance to win a $15 gift card. So no reason not to join. Crossover Report Challenge, ESPN Tournament Challenge, the brackets. Fill it out. You can get to that through our Twitter page, I think, also. You can get to the link right through there. So going to do it for us. March Madness starts tonight. Can't wait. We'll have all the coverage for you on our Twitter. Probably some thoughts after the first and second round. I'm sure there's going to be some upsets that we didn't pick, and it's going to be fun. Nick?
I'm just excited for the next time we get on here. We can talk about how Xavier lost.
I'm
excited about it.
And I can like how Purdue is probably going to spank the crap out of Arkansas Little Rock. That's what we're going to talk about.
It can happen. It's March. They might get that upset over Little Rock. You never know.
Never know. All right, that will do it for us. As always, Nick Damiani, Paul Lamb, myself, Neil Doyle. Crossover Report, 3 guys, 1 mic. We'll see you next time.